Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to Behind the Magic, a podcast from Aradia's Closet where we dive deeper into the components of magic. I'm Tanya, your host. I have all kinds of things planned for you, book reviews, how-tos, and interviews with some really amazing people. So if you want to gain a little more perspective on magic, tune in each week for more. Today, I am with my friend Stephen, and we are diving into his library 10 books at a time. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, folks, how you doing?
So we're going to jump right into the first book. It's The Secret Keys of Conjure, Unlocking the Mysteries of American Folk Magic. Chase Pagan is the author.
Published by
Llewellyn Publications.
Very good.
Let's see, what year? In 2018.
2018. So yeah, I bought this off the shelf from probably Books of Millions. It's a very good guide to Southern Conjure. Southern Conjure has been on the rise lately. It's a uniquely American form of folk magic. Obvious roots are in what they call Southern Conjure. Most people understand it to be hoodoo. I mean, straight up hoodoo with the oils, the candles, incenses, the powders, the floor washes, the whole thing. And Mr. Pagan gives us a very, very good overview of some traditional conjure issues. He also has some very, very good recipes in here for making conditional oils, which is primarily the reason why I bought it right off the shelf, because I love making my own conditional oils. Fast luck, money drawing, all of it's here. He also has a very good recipe for Hoyt's Cologne. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Hoyt's Cologne, you'll find that it has a very long and storied history of bringing good luck and good fortune. I use it every day. My friends and associates tell me it makes me smell like an old man.
An old man, yes.
Yeah, well, all right, guess what? I'm an old man. I'll be 65 this freaking month, okay? So leave me to it, all right? But it's a book I recommend. It's Chase Pagan, The Secret Keys of Conjure, Unlocking the Mysteries of American Folk Magic. For the last few years, American folk magic, hoodoo, conjure, that sort of thing, has been way, way on the rise. I think it's probably the fastest growing magical movement in America right now. Far outpaced chaos magic, basic Wicca, any and all. This is the root stuff, and that's why I like it.
I think any witch in the South needs to know a little bit of conjure magic.
Sure, it's the first thing I learned from my mother.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
How to get rid of people.
Oh, yes. Share with us.
All right. Well, Mom said, told me a story about my grandmother in Robertsdale, Alabama, probably around the 1930s. It was Depression era stuff. And folks were really on their own. The government wasn't helping them. There was no government intervention. There was certainly were no stimulus checks. So our grandparents were pretty much on their own when the Great Depression hit. So they had gardens. They had a handful of chickens they would raise and that sort of thing to keep the family fed. And Robertsdale, Alabama, sometime in the late 30s, I'm sorry, there was a hobo coming around, and he would steal eggs, chickens, that sort of thing.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, and that was folks' dinner back then.
Right.
Can't do that, all right? So according to what my mother told me, she told me how to get rid of him. So Grandma apparently took dirt from his footprints, his footsteps, placed it in a handkerchief, and at dusk she took it down to the riverside, a large body of water, at the end of the day, and she took that dirt in the handkerchief and she cast it into the river. Well, the next few days, the guy was picked up by the local sheriff's department and taken away. Now, you can call that coincidence or you can call it magic, but either way, it was effective.
Right.
So there you go. You
Fantastic.
want to discuss the ins and outs of the effectiveness of magic? Fine, go ahead.
Right.
I'll leave you to it.
Well, see,
I've seen it work.
That's what I want to stress to people when we talk about magic. It's not Harry Potter or Bewitched.
No.
That's not how magic works.
No, it's not.
Magic works just like you just illustrated.
Exactly.
That's how magic works.
It takes the route that's most effective. If your will is direct, your intent is directed, and you impress that enough upon the astral plane, it's going to manifest.
Yes.
That's all there is to it.
Yes.
But it does take will.
Definitely.
Will is one of the primary keys in the execution of very good magic.
Yes.
If at first one doesn't succeed, try again.
Right.
You're going to do it. It's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So what else you got there?
Okay, my next book here is Invisibility, Mastering the Art of Vanishing. It's a guide to hiding yourself from sight using techniques culled from alchemy, Rosicrucianism, medieval magic, and advanced yoga practices. This is by Steve Richards. I think I would like to read this.
It's an amazing book. It really is.
Well, I'm already into it. The Aquarian Press is who put it out in 1982.
Right. So here we go. This is a really good book that literally teaches you how to become invisible. There's a whole incredible section on the art of vanishing. And again, from the cover, one of the most closely guarded of all occult secrets, the art of invisibility. For centuries, magicians, adepts have hinted at ways of achieving this seemingly impossible feat. But now the author of this remarkable book has developed these hints into a complete manual that at last reveals the truth about invisibility. The deeply researched guide draws on alchemy, Rosicrucianism, medieval magic, hypnotism, Einsteinian physics, and yogic techniques to present a comprehensive picture of how invisibility can be achieved. Steve Richards, the author, offers an entertaining account and synthesizes a vast amount of material from Kabbalistic doctrines to mesmerism and photon energy, and this book is the first ever to investigate the extraordinary subject in depth. Again, the Aquarian Press, Wellingsboro, North Hampshire. $7.95. Boy, I wish books were that cheap again.
Seriously, magazines aren't that cheap anymore.
Oh my gosh, right? But this is a great little book. I remember when I bought it, I thought, what was the publishing date? 1982. I was, okay, that makes sense, okay. So yeah, I purchased this off of a local bookstore, probably Bookland or B. Dalton's Books or something like that. Anyway, it's probably out of print and it's probably very expensive, but it's a very excellent book to the art of invisibility. And yes, it's actually possible. It's Donald Michael Craig makes reference to this.
Oh.
Yes, when he does the Rose Cross ritual.
Oh.
You can become invisible. For those of you who have read Donald Michael Craig's High Magic, then you're aware of at least one of the techniques.
If you haven't read it, you need to read it.
Oh, absolutely. You need to read this. It'll be a minute before we get to Donald Michael's books from here.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, it's going to be quite some time.
Quite a minute.
We might have to make an exception, though, and just do a thorough
because such a very
talk
good book
about that book.
It literally is the Idiot's Guide to the Golden Dawn stuff.
We'll invite Victor over.
Yes, exactly. All right.
I have an invisibility story.
Do you?
Yes.
Well, let's share it.
So I was at a gathering, right, in the woods, and I was wandering around up and down the trails at night, visiting different camps with a friend of mine. And we stopped at one point along the trail. I didn't say anything. I just kind of motioned for him to back up. So we were standing along the trail, just kind of off the trail, and people just walking by us. Right. And he at one point, he's like, "What are we doing?" And I'm like, "Just quiet." And people would walk by us, and every once in a while, someone would look up, right? And we'd smile at each other, and they'd keep walking.
Right.
After a while, he says, "What are we doing?" I said, "We're being invisible." And he says, "Well, what about the people that keep looking, that look up at us?" I said, "Those people know how to be invisible too."
Very good. It's quite a hat trick.
Yes.
It really is. But that's what I haven't done any research on the availability of this book. But he had two books, one on invisibility and one on levitation. Both of them are very, very good. So if you can find Invisibility, Mastering the Art of Vanishing by Steve Richards, you should read this book. It's very, very good. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen this in a long time. I think I may reread it.
Yeah.
Because it was very, very good.
Yeah, I'm going to read it too. I'm going to put it on my...
Oh, so you say.
So I say I'm going to put it on the pile of books next to my bed. But I want
it's outrageous, isn't it? Oh, man, I'm so deep in this. It's just crazy.
Yes, if one day I'm gonna have to show
One
everybody
day.
around once we
Yes.
get more bookcases up and stuff,
Yes.
and they're not going to believe their eyes. I mean, like when I tell you we have books coming out our ears, we have
Oh,
books
it's
coming out our ears.
crazy.
We literally officially have a library with 2,000 books. It's less than that that needs to be to consider a
You know
library.
what? We ought to rent a little space downtown, offer coffee, tea,
Oh,
maybe a few biscuits.
and
You know, and it's the reading library.
the reading
we'll charge an
library.
admission. How about that?
Yes,
Because there's so much of this
yes,
stuff.
you can't check them out. You have to come there and read them.
It looks more like an obsession than a collection. What do you think?
Yeah, it's bordering on
Oh
obsession.
my God! I mean, really, people have asked me, how can we have three copies of the same book?
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Here we go. Here's my explanation.
Okay.
The first one is the first edition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The second edition will be the one that came in the 1960s or 1970s. All right. That had the cool psychedelic cover because
Right.
all this stuff, was coming to fruition in the 1960s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Aleister Crowley managed to turn up on one of the Beatles albums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Upper right hand corner of People We Like. Aleister Crowley. Imagine that, right?
That's funny.
That's hilarious. But at any rate, yes. So what are we on to next?
Okay. Our next book, a teaching handbook for Wiccans and Pagans. Practical Guidance for Sharing Your Path by Thea Sabine, author of Wicca for Beginners. And this is another Llewellyn publication put out in 2012.
All right. Pretty good little book. I like it. Got a really pretty cover on it. It's trade paperback. I probably bought this when I was still interested in teaching the craft. Yeah, because I looked at this. There's randomly on page 128 extending one class to several. So yeah, this is a really good book on it if you're out there teaching. And we used to teach, and got a spell we would do teaching seminars, pretty much free to the public. We met a lot of interesting people. So my guess is I probably bought this around the time that Goddespell, which is our origin coven, was up and working. We were working very hard. We were teaching classes, we were doing public events, all that sort of thing. So it was a good book because it also teaches, in chapter 2, it has legalities. What you can do, where you need to apply for a license, all of that sort of thing. I know. You remember that? We kind of flew by the seat of our pants, yeah. Right? Yeah. We just announced that at a certain park on Sunday, all the witches are going together in this park, and good for us. And
Lord.
Yes.
Politics.
Yes.
Paperwork.
One time, the evil blonde one and I were actually attacked in a park by religious fundamentalists. That was not cool. And these idiots actually called the police on us when they were out of order. Under Florida law, you may not interrupt any sort of religious practice whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And when the police got there,
they were escorted away.
Yes, the police officer said, you're going to have to send your folks home, or we're going to start arresting people for violation of the blah, blah, blah law.
Yeah.
Right, and they were horrified. Yeah. That was so much fun because they're so horrified that the police ushered them away and didn't arrest us. Because according to my priestess at the time, she and I went downtown to check on the arrest report.
Oh.
Yes, we did that because we wanted to see what was going on. And yeah, they were trying to get us arrested for practicing satanic ritual.
Oh.
In a park.
There's that.
No. Okay. Yeah. But that was kind of fun. At the end of that, we were being harassed by these religious fundamentalists. Church, half a block away. My priestess at the time warned me not to make too flagrant a display. But I'm one of those people who likes to work with all of my tools, and this was part of Wicca 101. It was a graduating class. We taught these people how to write ritual, perform ritual, understand the power of ritual, etc., etc. And that really pissed me off when these people breached my circle. Uh-huh. Really ticked me off. So I definitely filed a counter police report. And I was going to have the pastor of that church arrested the police actually talked me out of it.
Oh goodness.
Well, yes. My priestess and I went down there, and we want a full report. We want to see what was happening. And, okay, well, that's clearly a violation of Florida law. But the police turned this over to community outreach, right?
Oh.
And they actually sent a police officer over to that guy's church, the pastor, and talked to him and explained that he cannot violate the constitutional rights of others because he feels differently.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Lord help us.
Yeah, we're sitting on you remember the Lunar Library, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to call it the Lunatic Library.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we're teaching out of that. And,
Yeah, it was in the paper. I have the paper.
Yeah, my priestess and I were seeing that after all this with the police, the religious nut jobs, all of that. We were sitting on the front stoop of the store, smoking a cigarette after that. And she turned to me and said, "It's not just a religion; it's an adventure."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes, you are absolutely right
Very
about that,
true.
my friend."
My friend Ivy would agree with that. I'm sure.
Yes.
100%. We have stories.
Yes, they would most certainly agree with that.
Okay, our next book is Magic Charms from A to Z, and this is a beautiful book. And
published by the Witch's Almanac,
published by the Witch's Almanac.
I love the Witch's Almanac.
Put out in 1999.
Yep.
This is a beautiful book.
Yeah, this is a collection of charms and spells, traditional stuff by Elizabeth Pepper, who, of course, founded Witch's Almanac. And I gotta tell you, for you folks out there who just don't who've seen the Witch's Almanac, but you passed on it, it is a long tradition going back to 1971, 72. I was like 14 years old, trying to find my spiritual way. And the Witch's Almanac was actually a very, very contributing factor in that, because by the time I was 13 or 14, I'd read the Bible and thought this is the worst collection of rubbish that can possibly be imagined. And I make no apologies for that statement whatsoever. The story is perfectly absurd to any rational human being.
It's a bunch of stories.
It's a bunch of stories, and that's what they are. They're stories.
Myths
and the sad part about them is it's patriarchal. Can't have it. But anyway, this is a very, very charming collection of some that's probably left over from the series of The Witch's Almanac. But when I discovered The Witch's Almanac in the early 1970s, I was just absolutely blown away, because I suddenly realized that there were people out there like me who had grown up doing magic, who grew up being taught magic.
Yeah.
It was just something that I don't know. You know, it's like maybe it'd been a nice idea, been nice to live a normal life, but that's always eluded me.
That's the story for witches in
yes,
general.
That's why they call us that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a cover-all term for very strange people.
Yes.
And we're very strange people.
People are strange.
And yes. I love that song by the Doors, by the way. I absolutely love that. Did you?
Mm-hmm.
On the radio?
Yeah, at Walmart.
At Walmart?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's playing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
At Walmart.
They had some good music at the Walmart in Gulf Shores, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah. People are strange. Yeah, this is a wonderful book published by the Witch's Almanac. If you're unfamiliar with the Witch's Almanac, you really should go back. At least go to Witch's Almanac, Google it. They have excellent material.
But I will say this. When Elizabeth died, they changed the cover. And I'm still upset about it.
I'm still upset about that too. It's no good.
No.
You know, it really is. And I've got every one I bought since like 1971, starting from 1971 to 72. I've still got every one of them. They're brilliant. I barely collect the new editions, though. I'm sorry to say, but
right.
I mean, it's a good guide. You should have that if you're a practicing witch. You should have the Witch's Almanac, because it's very, very good to keep you abreast of certain planetary changes and that sort of thing. It's just a very, very good idea.
But don't collect them.
No,
sell the old copy every year.
Yes, I'm proud of
new one.
I'm proud of my collection from the 1970s.
Yes, those are beautiful. But
They're
the new
beautiful.
ones,
the new ones, I'm sorry, they're not worth collecting.
Alrighty.
Oh my God! Here we go again. Another H.P. Lovecraft collection.
Yes, the Encyclopedia
Cthulhiana. Okay, I guess that's like Beatles Mania or
Yeah,
Wrestling Mania or something like that.
Cthulhuania. The Encyclopedia Cthulhuania.
Yeah, this is basically if you're trying to work your way through Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. It's a good book to have.
Yes.
It's it's like a dictionary of everything that turns up in H.P. Lovecraft stories. Arkham, let's see, Cthulhu, of course, the Cthulhu mythos, assorted creatures associated with the Necronomicon.
So this book is a guide to Lovecraftian horror.
Yes.
It's the expanded and revised second edition by Daniel Harms. It's a Call of Cthulhu fiction. It's put out by Chaosism Book.
Now, I seem relatively appropriate. Chaos?
Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft?
And this was put out in
Sprawling Madness.
This was put out in 1999.
Yes, 1999. That was a good year. I was only impressed with the new millennium. That was awesome. Yeah, this is literally a directory or dictionary of various things that you're going to encounter if you read H.P. Lovecraft. It's quite good. I've not read a great deal of it, but I'm glad that I own it. I really am, because Lovecraft tends to pop up in the lives of witches on a regular basis. I don't know why. You know, even getting back to Elizabeth Pepper, in one of her early editions of the Witch's Almanac, she mentioned that H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh.
Yes. She apparently enjoyed him quite a deal. And that's how I wound up reading H.P., right? So, I wound up reading H.P. Lovecraft and experiencing the waking horror, the waking dreams that H.P. sometimes inspires in first-time readers. So, yeah, good stuff. I like it. I own 2 copies of the hardback copies of the Necronomicon. How about that?
Wow. Well, we'll get around to them.
I'm sure eventually we will.
He's going to come after you.
Yeah, I'll have to put that on the list.
Okay, our next book, The Dark Side of the Moon, A Complete Course in Magic and Witchcraft by Basil E. Crouch. Interesting name.
Should be Grouch.
Nope, that's Crouch.
I know, but it should be Grouch, because he's a grouchy kind of guy. It's a book full of spells for vengeance.
So this was put out in 1987 by
That's
Finbar Books.
Bad year. That's the year my mother died.
Oh.
Yeah, this was an eBay score. I read about half of it and I bailed. There's something new on the horizon, that sort of thing. But, sorry, but I don't really take Basil E. Crouch particularly seriously. It's one of those things that you buy. If you're a book collector, if you're anything like me, you're like, okay, The Dark Side of the Moon, cool. I absolutely need to have that in my library, on my shelf.
Right.
But it's not a book that I've referred to a great deal, so it's nice to have, but not buying it.
It's a nice cover.
Yeah, it's a nice cover. Sometimes you buy. You know what? I bought the first Black Sabbath album because I liked the cover. The photography was brilliant, and it was everything inside that the outside said it would be.
I can imagine.
Do you remember that? The cover?
I do.
It's like a kind of medieval. This woman standing in front of this English cottage mansion, sort of thing, like clad in black. All right, and it was brilliant. Exactly.
Yes,
Black
Sabbath.
stuff. Oh my God.
All right, our next book, Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot, A Pictorial Key. Now, this is Paul Hewson.
Yes.
This was put out in
I love Paul
2017 by the Witch's Almanac people.
Yes. I was absolutely delighted when I found that Paul Hewson had published his own tarot. It's beautifully executed. Paul Hewson, of course, is famous for mastering the art of witchcraft. And that was about 1970 or 71 or something like that.
Yeah, Mastering Witchcraft.
Really, really enjoyed his work for a very, very long time. And now he has. When this first came out, I ordered not one but 2 copies of that tarot. One I could use and one I could keep as a souvenir type thing. Beautifully illustrated. It's full of Paul Hewson's magnificent artwork. It tends to follow the standard AE weight
Of course.
template.
Yeah,
That's not at all unusual though. But that's been going on for
Yeah, they all
90
do.
something years.
It's one of the reasons why that's the deck that I use is the weight.
Yeah, it's very very easy because
Rider
every one of them is illustrated, and if you're a reader, you can quickly pick up tips on what the card mean is by simply looking at the illustration. Like for instance, here we land on the Two of Cups, and that represents a male and a female figure sharing a cup. That's obviously a card of relationship, love,
right?
that sort of thing. So yeah, and it's beautifully illustrated. I highly recommend it. If you don't have a copy of Paul Hewson's Dame Fortune's Wheel Tarot, you should certainly purchase one. And you should most certainly go back and read Mastering Witchcraft.
Absolutely.
With the caveat that this is not your grandma's Wicca. This is hardcore stuff.
No. Okay, so here we have a book that was originally 2 books, published in 2 volumes, 1974 and 1975. This particular one I have in my hands is both books together, and it was reprinted a couple of times. This edition is 1982 by Samuel Weiser Incorporated Books.
All right, it's got a book of pagan rituals. I thought this is by our friend Herman Slater. If you don't know who Herman Slater is, you should go to YouTube and look at the interview. It's a lengthy interview with him. He was a dedicated merchant in New York. He had the Warlock shop. And so he was a dedicated merchant of occult goods, incenses, books, all sorts of things. Herman had people come in there all the time, and they had read H.P. Lovecraft, and they wanted a copy of the Necronomicon, which was simply a literary prop. There's no such thing as there's no historical Necronomicon. It was a book only mentioned in H.P. Lovecraft's horror.
I think we talked about that on the last podcast.
Yeah, and the truth is, H.P. Lovecraft casts a long shadow of occultism, witchcraft, all of it.
Oh, absolutely.
He casts a long shadow over that. Okay, but yeah, this is Herman Slater, who was the owner and operator of the Warlock shop in New York. Let's see. Something about a magical child later on, but this is a series of rituals and that sort of thing. And Herman Slater did a lot of public ritual in New York, of all places.
Public ritual.
Yes.
Well.
And he was not afraid. He was I don't know why he's not quite mentioned as often as figures like Aleister Crowley or Gerald Gardner. Gerald Gardner, yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Gerald Gardner. He's rarely mentioned, but he made quite a contribution. I used to use this book to write rituals for Goddessville.
Yeah, this is definitely a book for every pagan library.
Yes,
definitely.
So actually a classic.
Our next book is The Crooked Path, an introduction to traditional witchcraft. This is by Keldon, and the foreword is by Gemma Gary, and it was put out in 2021.
Which is the only reason I bought this book, because Gemma Gary, the English witch, did the foreword, so I thought that it would be very good. Actually, I was quite wrong about that.
Well, it's got a pretty cover.
It's got a great cover on it. Not very often will buy a book simply by the cover. This nonsense that you can't judge a book by its cover is just that. It's sheer nonsense.
Well, see, that's the thing I've noticed with Llewellyn publications. This is another Llewellyn publication. But back in the day, they put out some really cool stuff. Now, they just put out everything.
Yeah, they
cool
put out
not
everything.
Cool.
Yeah, and I just don't really don't care for this. I really don't care for this. I read a few chapters of it. Good luck if you buy it. Gemma Gary's great. Gemma Gary. You should read her stuff. But this, not so much. Keldon.
Our next book is Rowan Tree and Red Thread, a Scottish witchcraft miscellany. Tales, legends, and ballads, together with a description of the witches' rites and ceremonies by Thomas Davidson. Interesting.
It was a post book.
Is this Oliver and Boyd? And the only date that I see in here is 1949. Like, is this really put out in 1949?
Yes, actually, that this book, Rowan Tree and Red Thread, was in the bibliography for Paul Huston's Mastering Witchcraft, which is the only reason I own it. And it's quite excellent. It's very rare, probably impossible to find now. But this is the roots of traditional witchcraft. This covers several tales. A lot of it is Isabel Gowdy's stuff. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Elizabeth Gowdy, she was a Scottish witch who was arrested and charged, and without any torture or anything like that, she's just spilled her guts for a great deal with the Inquisitors. And we know a lot about ancient medieval witchcraft because of her testimony. We know how the covens were ran because of what she said. She said there was a magister, there was a summoner, and then there were 10 people in the coven. And apparently she confessed this without torture at all. So Isabel Gowdy is featured prominently in this book because of profound mystery. I mean, it's a great deal of evidence to strongly suggest that this woman and her coven were up to a great deal of mischief. There's a lot of fairy related stuff in this. There's a lot of Queen of Elfham in there. So it's very, very true. If you want to really understand traditional craft, by all means, look at every book that Paul Huston suggests in his bibliography.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
It's the only reason why I own this.
I was just wondering, when we get ready to start organizing the books after they've been cataloged.
Oh, you can have that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I said
I'm sorry, I'm too lazy for that, my friend.
When we start to organize the books, the ones that Paul Huston has referenced, do we put those next to Paul Huston?
It's not actually a bad idea.
You know, instead of alphabetically, we're going to have to really study how we're going to divide this library up. And that,
quite a task.
That, my friends, is the 10 books for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, Stephen.
Woo!
I'm going to have some fun people coming up. I got a couple of people lined up for interviews, so you guys stay tuned.